Hey there, it's Salem. Here's a quick summary and trigger warnings for this video. If you enjoy this one and want to see more like it, likes, comments, subscribing, or becoming a channel member helps let me know. You can say hello to me on all of these sites here. Now on to the video. I hope you rest well. I don't want to paint a picture of a place or person, not anyone in particular. I want to instead I would like to invoke a scene, a time, an experience, a feeling. People and things and animals and places too. This is a story about a place that has ended. I hope that you will still listen to it as a happy story. I appreciate it for having happened. This forest, hard as it is to imagine, was not always a forest that was. It was not always a forest full of deep and inherent magic. That's not to say it isn't now. Deep, old, inherent magic, dark and twisted as it might be. But all magic, even those deep, old with gnarled roots twisted deeper than you can see, they have to start sometime. They have to be small magic before they can be big. That's not always true, but that sounds nice in this case. And these kinds of things, they're not conjuration and majesty. The roots of great and towering oaks, they do not burst through the ground with force. It is not with intention. It is slow and deep, simply something that is, that happens. A web woven with patience. Its seed, no matter how great the oak, the tallest of them, all in a maze of bark and bush and distant calls of unfamiliar birds. It was a small seed once. This seed, the one our story starts with, was similarly small, but in our case shaped like an animal, a predator, albeit a poor excuse for one. Small, dull teeth. They should have had their throat liberated from them any number of times, always indulging foolish curiosity. This was not a magical beast, mind you, as much as any beast is not. And most are in some small ways, but to not split hairs. I hope you understand. This was a small and silly creature. This foolish little carnivore would never stay near his den, never knew any better. He wandered, he sniffed, he ventured, patting his paws through grasses more treacherous than he ever knew. There was another beast, too. Unfamiliar, large. I won't play coy with you for too long, but a human. Another beast. Fearsome and strange, and he didn't understand them. They were different. All animals are different from one another, but these were further. They walked on two legs, they made noise, and they sounded a bit like a bear maybe, at times. But they didn't roar. They made a sound that was so joyous. One that filled this fox's little heart so that he could do nothing but bark and reveal himself there. A sound of revelry. He couldn't help but join in. So why did the humans run? It happened again. He didn't understand. He would follow them. He would track their scent just to hear that sound again. To feel the feeling of, to feel. It was new. This kind of feeling. He was a beast, and he hurt in certain ways, and he loved and cared. They weren't less important ways, but they were different ways, and it wasn't the way that these people felt. This was a human type of joy that was so large, it felt like it didn't fit inside his little body. And the third time, this little fox encountered people and watched and waited and joined with their laughter like the little fool he was. They did not run. They hesitated, but they did not run. Not this time. But they feared. He could smell that much. And yet, these people were giving him a chance. These strange beasts to this little predator These were representatives of a divine joy, made into silly, warm beasts of too much intellect and not enough sense. And oh boy, did this little fox find out that these people were so very good at scritching his little ears. They played eventually, and the little fox was always on his best behavior. He never bit, not even once. He paid attention in a way he hadn't understood how to do before. These people didn't seem to bite one another, and he mimicked them. Or he tried. They saw him try to stand on two legs like they did, and the way that they laughed. The fox, as best he could, knew that he would spend the rest of his life trying to make those people laugh in that way again. For as long as he could. These were simple people, travelers from what he later came to understand. He saw them once a fortnight, heard, smelled, felt, experienced them, felt the warmth no other beast provided, at a core in his silly little candid heart. There was another new feeling when they left, and he hurt, and the forest was quiet. It was, even at that time, a place of deep peace, and the magic of a forest undisturbed by humanity besides a few occasional passerbys. It's not strong magic, but something doesn't need to be strong to be special. Some people are not very strong, but they're smart, or they're very dedicated, or they're creative or funny. The magic of this forest at that time was a subtle and small thing, but it was important all the same. Even if it did not even if it is different now. There was no choice. I don't know how to explain this. Sometimes there is no other way that a thing can be. No other way that it can happen. There are some things that in every universe, in every possibility, in every timeline, happen because they cannot be stopped. Inevitable is an unfortunate way to put it, but perhaps an okay estimation in communicating this. Some of its connotations will be accurate and sometimes they will not be. The fox knew he would be with these people. The woods knew that they would be together. The soil knew it. It wasn't a want or even a need, really. These people, I think, felt the draw, too, the inevitability. They came and they left. And they came and they left. And then they left. And then they came back. And they laughed. And they sighed. And then they built. And they never left. Homes. A small cluster at first. Just a few. And homes is a generous word for it. Eventually, they were conjoined. One space for all of us. They still left from time to time. They traded and they traveled still. They hunted, brought this little fox foods he could never have imagined the flavors of. Though when he saw them hunt, they were silly and bad at it alone. But they fought in groups with traps, and they were tricky. Not violently, never, and always with respect and an honorable disdain for doing what they must. They appreciated. The fox never did appreciate before that. But he was trying a great many new things. So he tried appreciating too. Villages were far, but they weren't impossible to reach with a little bit of preparation. So people came. Family members, friends, partners, lovers, children, and some alone, called. Have you ever felt something like that? Something that was just the truth of your existence. That you were faced with. Suddenly. It was a different experience for the fox and these people, but I think there were probably some similarities. I loved each and every single one of them. This fox, he became something for them. He was nothing before. A part of a larger and vaster world. A small and inconsequential beast. Still is. Maybe. These silly little fools thought that this fox was a spirit, a messenger, magic, but not of the kind of wizards and mages. Not even the deep magic of forests like these. The kind of magic that comes from a place that we cannot reach. Should not, perhaps. This little fox loved them more than he could bear. But they were so different. He didn't want to be below them, above them, cared for by them. He didn't want to be an amusement, something that they never made him feel to be, but he wanted to be one of them, with them. How could he be with his paws, his barks, his scrawny yips? His sounds were emotion, but vague and indirect. They spoke in a specific way that he could not quite understand. But he understood that he did not understand something. It was an exchange, perhaps. I don't mean to make it sound dry. They gave him love and he gave them protection. Nothing so disgustingly transactional. They provided these things out of care for one another. They did, at least, once that fox could protect them. He could hunt for his own food and find his meals. A predator that did well enough. There were predators bigger than him, and he knew that. He could not protect them, shaped as he was. A small and fragile guardian. His prey, plain and simple. So he took their shape. Was given their shape, maybe. Became their shape. To attribute it to anything feels incorrect. Became part of their world. And it is still, again, a hard thing to explain. Because no one remembers the moment of this happening. There was a time this fox was a fox, and there was a time that this fox was more. Different, maybe. He was shaped as them. His mouth could make their sounds. And something fundamental had changed. About him, yes, but also about this place, his relationship to these people. He was a guardian now in a way that was more than words. For a place, a people, and a time and its peace. It was guarded well for centuries. This human-shaped fox became a member of this family, a begrudging patriarch, but the twine that lovingly connected all of these wonderful people. He became the spirit, maybe, of this place. And they built a temple for him. And they put gold in it. And made sure it was very pretty. And he refused to be the god that they wanted. He was family for them, and he insisted on respect of nothing more. So they made a trade. They would follow him if he would be their family. They lived there together to the scent of frankincense and local herbs, to the soft and raw fabric of the sheets they laid in, to the feeling of comfort of a forehead pressed into the crook of one's neck as you sleep. He was shaped in a way that he could feel the soft breath of a loved one grazing over the bare skin stretched over his collarbone. These people had children, and I loved them very much. And I cared for them dearly. The first people to know me as their uncle, rather than their god or guardian. The small children that would climb atop me. They did not care, nor did they know what change had happened, what I had been. All they knew was what I was then. That feeling very nearly came close to the feeling I heard the first time I heard those travelers laugh. Those children had children. My dearest friends were grandparents now. I was amazed. I had never seen humans before. Had never been at least human-shaped, mostly, before. They lived for such very long times, and they cherished and spoiled the young ones with toys they whittled. The oldest would tell them of all of the tiny secrets of the forest, the mushrooms that glowed on nights that were especially hot and humid, all of the little places their parents didn't want them running off to on their own. They had no claws, no worthwhile teeth after all. But as a little fox once did run and explore, they would. They'd give that small and worthless fox a run for his money in their foolishness. But he kept them safe. Every single one. Not from scratches, not from broken bones, but from the important moments that mattered. When the child who didn't understand that the baby bear running wasn't trying to play, and certainly that the mother it was running to wouldn't want to play either. Those moments still make me sick. I could feel them in the air, thick and putrid. I followed their scent and snuffed them from the winds. There was a time, however, the first was the most jarring. The putrid smell came after the tragedy. There was no sense of supernatural disgust, no divine guardianship I could provide to ward this off. My first of many experiences with human mortality, with a friend, one of my first. The first time I had smelled it, I remember knowing that death was there, but I didn't understand. I had no sense of despair that manifested in the wind, nothing to sink claws or fangs into. It was inevitable. My friends fell through my fingers. I suppose that these people were so different from anything I had ever met, any creatures I knew I never considered. Mortality touched them as well, in a way it no longer seemed to hold on to me. One by one, slowly at first. I was their age, but I did not. I was not as they were. I did not change. I remember the first time I hoped to reminisce about the very first days, to share honeyed words with a friend who shared the memories of my standing on 2 legs when I was meant to be on 4. And there was nobody left who remembered that. And I cried very hard that night. To one of their children, even, which is much worse. They were distraught. I had never done anything like that or acted like that. I apologized to them. They were old at that point too, though. Not fatally so. I did not mean to tease them with memories they could not have, or wound them with reminders of parents they had lost, or of their own ends. They laughed. They said their end was none of my concern. Of course it was. That was the point of all of this, wasn't it? I was their guardian. I was not, they said. I was confused. Not hurt. Not at all, but what then? I was their family instead, they told me. I'm not sure I uttered another word that night through my sobs. What a pathetic little fox I still was. Still am, probably. It's nice to end stories at their beginning, I think, before the thing happens, before the danger comes. So why don't we end on chapter 1? It's a nicer ending. I found my family. They found their home. I protected them. And then we lived. And we hunted and we slept. We ate very delicious food and built very beautiful things. We loved one another in a place no one knew for many, many more years than I think you might have even had for yourself, little dragon. I could not be the grandparent of a dragon, but an aging parent, certainly. We did all of that for a time. To have seen the smallest seeds grow to rival the grandest towers of bark and leaf in our forest. I will tell you the middle another time. It is also pleasant. I will tell you the end even another time if you are so unfortunate. Perhaps it's cynical to say, but maybe it's good if we all understand not to get greedy for a good thing. if we understand that an early end should be appreciated. Once a story has had its time, a novel has much more time for tragedy to develop than a short story, does it not? Let us enjoy the beginning for now. You have been through much in a place that is very different from the story that I have told. Rest that furnace of yours burning in your chest. Such a foolish little thing. Sleep again. Perhaps it's better for you not to hear the end of this story. I suppose your teeth are sharp, at least. You're off to a better start than I was.